So I just watched the new hit show, Mr. Robot, and I thought it was good. It's definitely one of those shows that require second viewing to fully understand the story after the huge bombshell in episode 8, but we'll get to that later. So this show's creator and director is Sam Ismail, and he surprisingly hasn't really done much before this. His previous works prior to Mr. Robot just include Comet, which I have never watched, and which hopefully we'll never have to watch.
My parents have been together for 32 years, and they are happily in love.
No, they're not.
Yes, they are.
No, they're not. They haven't divorced by now. Probably means they've just surrendered to the fact that being apart is much better than being together. You know, the lesser of two evils. Trust me, it's like an emotional holocaust between your parents right now. They probably have lukewarm feelings about you, too. I'm Dell, by the way.
So, no offense, but I have a thing about shaking hands.
Oh, my God. You are a little crazy. That's great.
You're not impressing me.
I disagree.
You know, you should stop trying to sound so smart all the time. You just wind up sounding really dumb.
And he also wrote the story for some other shit called Mockingbird. No, not that one. Yes, that one. This really surprised me because the show didn't turn out terrible, even though his previous works include a cheesy romance and a shitty horror movie. And although he did have some help for a couple of episodes, he for the most part was the guy in charge of everything. So good job, Sam. But even though I thought the show was good, I would still like to go through each episode and address what I liked and disliked. Anyways, in the first few minutes of episode 1, we are fed various pieces of information, like how Elliot, who's our protagonist, is this vigilante hacker, and that his father died from leukemia when he was 8, which he got from the company he worked at, and that Elliot failed to prove it. He works at AllSafe, a cybersecurity firm. He works with his childhood friend Angela, who is a good person, as he puts it. She got him the job, and he hates it there. There's this company called E-Corp, and it controls everything. He hates E-Corp and society, etc., etc. And this is where my first problem with the show arises. We are not given time to learn as the show progresses. Everything is given right away at the start, and in the least subtle way too. This information is literally being told to us by the protagonist through the pretense that we, the viewer, are his imaginary friend.
Gideon.
That's my childhood friend, Angela. She can be a bit high-strung sometimes, but trust me, she's one of the good ones. She was right. I like most of the people, but our business, a cybersecurity firm that protects corporations, I can't think of anything I hate more. I hate when I can't hold in my loneliness. This crying's been happening too often, every other week now.
Now, I don't mind that Elliot has an imaginary friend, but what I do mind is that it's used as a cheap and boring way to explain most of the things that the viewer can learn over time. The things he tells us aren't even necessary to understand the show. This might just affect me, but I hate it when movies or TV shows spoon feed you information as if you can't figure shit out on your own. And how lazy are you as a writer that you can't even try to find some other way to reveal information? Something that we learn much too early in my opinion is the fact about his father. Not the fact that he died, but how he died and that he failed to prove it. This is such a central point of his character, yet we learn about it the second the show starts. That piece of information would have had a bigger impact on the viewer if it was revealed at a later episode. Right now, it's so early in the show that I wouldn't even give a fuck if Elliot's whole family was raped.
I'm just anonymous. I'm just alone. If it weren't for QWERTY, I'd be completely empty.
So in episode 1, we see Elliot crying in his apartment at night due to him feeling incredibly lonely. Obviously, he has social anxiety issues and has a hard time connecting to people. This is great. Protagonists are usually way more interesting when they aren't perfect. But what bothers me is that the show is sending me mixed messages. He doesn't really have the life of someone who is lacking a social life. On the contrary, meeting people seems a bit too easy for him. For example, his meeting with Tyrell Wellick was kinda weird.
Oh, hi. Tyrell Wellick. I'm Senior Vice President Technology.
Elliot. Just a tech.
Tyrell, a man who seeks to rise through the ranks to eventually become CTO, randomly approaches Elliot, who, let's be honest, just looks like a weird guy and is, as he says he is, just a tech, and starts talking to him and saying all this shit as if he knows that Elliot is more than he appears, which he clearly doesn't know. Tyrell is an awesome character, and they introduce him in such a weird way that makes no sense. I personally think that Tyrell's first meeting with Elliot should have been the first scene in episode 2 where he forcibly brings him to a meeting. Anyways, Elliot meets Tyrell easily, and he also meets his neighbor Shayla the same way. these characters that come into Elliot's life don't do so realistically. People don't normally just start talking to a guy who just stares at him in awkward silence. And that scene's message where Elliot was crying because of his loneliness was kind of ruined by the next scene, which shows Elliot in bed with his neighbor / drug dealer after having sex. Again, these two things kind of contradict themselves, and obviously sex doesn't necessarily make you less lonely, but it trivializes the highly emotional scene where Elliot was crying. In my opinion, the sex scene should just be removed. It doesn't really work with the character. So anyways, the episode continues with Elliot stopping a hack at Allsafe that was targeting E Corp, or Evil Corp, as we the viewer always hear.
I want to offer you a position here at Evil Corp.
Yeah, 1 hour in Evil Corp's time is like $13 million in revenue, approximately.
Explosion making Steel Mountain go kablooey along with Evil Corp's soul.
By the way, I kind of wish the scene which explains Elliot brainwashing himself to always hear Evil Corp when someone actually says E Corp was conveyed in a clearer way. He kind of just mumbled it to himself, and this left me slightly confused for half of the season. Every time I heard the different characters saying Evil Corp, I was like, wait, is that the actual name, or what's going on here?
They're so big, they're literally everywhere. A perfect monster of modern society. The E might as well stand for evil. In fact, after a thorough intensive self-reprogramming, that's all my mind hears Caesar reads when they pop up in my world.
We have to offer. Together, we can change the world with
Evil Corp.
I did eventually understand that we, as the imaginary friend, hear what Elliot hears, but I kind of have mixed feelings about this. On the one hand, it's quite clever to hear everybody say Evil Corp, but on the other hand, it felt like I was forced to believe they were evil without coming to my own conclusion. I don't really like the Star Wars style where everything is black or white. I like moral dilemmas. I like it when we have to question whether something is good or bad, just or wrong, or a bit of both.
We still up? We're okay. Yeah.
So Elliot stops the hack and finds out that the hack was from F Society or Fuck Society. Sounds kind of cheesy, but whatever. He then meets the guy running F Society called Mr. Robot and checks out their base, and we get to meet the whole crew. The obligatory fat geek, a black guy that looks like he came from Woodstock who knows more about drugs and computers.
Look, man, you might be able to hide it from these nerds, but I know a junkie when I see one.
A hot chick, and a Muslim chick wearing a hijab whose sole purpose was for this joke to be said.
Asking for Colby's release as ransom was genius. That'll only make his spotlight bigger, keeping it off us. That neat little ditty was Trenton's idea. She may look innocent, but I'd be careful. She's got some Allah Akbar in her.
Are hackers usually this diverse? I don't know because I've never met any, but I find it hard to believe. Is this bad? Yes and no. A mixed group can potentially be more interesting than the stereotypical hackers. But on the other hand, it kind of feels like they were made to be diverse out of obligation towards PC culture. I may be wrong here, but I see no reason why they all have to be polar opposites. It honestly just feels forced.
What if I told you that this conglomerate just so happens to own 70% of the global consumer credit industry, huh? If we hit their data center just right, we could systematically format all the servers, including backup.
That would erase
all the debt we owe them. Every record of every credit card, loan, and mortgage would be wiped clean.
So Mr. Robot comes up with the grand plan to basically erase all debt records, essentially freeing society. The first part of his plan is to frame Terry Colby, the CTO of the company, for the hack that struck E Corp. This will be done by changing the IP address to Colby's into that file that Elliot has. It's then revealed that Elliot isn't 100% sure if he wants to go with the plan, judging by the fact that he has made 2 folders and pulls out the white folder during the meeting, which is the unmodified one. First thing that I want to say is why. Why is Elliot hesitating so much? This guy literally complained during the whole first episode that he hates how everybody is being controlled by money, and he even had a montage that reinforced this point of view when he was walking home by showing advertisements saying, "How will I repay my student loan debt?" and "Villains, evil always wins." He was even smiling during his walk back home, which is something he very rarely does, and to seal the deal, he hacked his friend Angela and he finds out that she is drowning in almost $200,000 of student loan debt. What more motivation does this guy really need, honestly? It's fucking ridiculous.
waiting for, huh? What are you waiting for? What are you waiting for?
What am I waiting for? What am I waiting for?
What are you waiting for?
You!
It's really stupid that the thing that eventually made him do it is Terry Colby acting like an asshole towards Angela.
Yeah, okay, Angela, that's what we're here for, the technicals.
By the way, Terry acting like that was a blatant plot device whose sole purpose was to piss off Elliot, which would then make him pull out the second folder, making Tyrell Wellick witness Elliot framing Terry Colby.
And look through a packet for the next 20 minutes. All right? Just who did this? Is it that hard? Who did this?
I found the configuration file of the rootkit with a pattern of IP addresses. Once you decrypt it, you'll know where the hack came from.
I'm actually really annoyed that was the best way they could come up with to bring Tyrell Wellick into the story. It just seems too convenient in my opinion. Anyway, the episode ends with Terry Colby arrested and bodyguards of Tyrell Wellick bringing Elliot to some meeting. So despite all of my complaints, first episode was okay but felt slightly slow. I can't fault them too much though, because this is kind of to be expected since pilot episodes usually turn out like this. Anyways, you can expect part 2 of the review to come out much sooner since I won't have the Olympics distracting me this time.